to be teaching you how to make a pumpkin pie coaster set. I'm going to be making 5 coasters, but you can make however many you want, although 5 coasters or 4 is what fits into the pie crust that I have created. I'm using weight for yarn. You're just going to want a beige pie crust colored yarn, any type of orange yarn, and just a little bit of white for the whipped cream topping. First, I'm going to show how to do the pumpkin pie crust part, but by showing the crust, I will also be showing how to make the coaster because the bottom of the crust is the same exact pattern and size of the coaster. So once you start making the coaster parts, you're going to rewind this video to watch this part over again, and I will let you know when to stop. So first, for the pie crust part, we are going to make a slip knot. The tail doesn't have to be long. And you're gonna chain 4. If you like to do magic rings, then you can do that instead. I don't personally like to do magic rings, so I just chain a couple and then go into the first chain. So chain 4, then go into the first chain and make a slip stitch. And then chain 2, we're going to be half double crocheting, and you're going to want to find the middle part to go into. So it's not going to be this like slip stitch we just created. It's just going to be this whole bigger hole in the middle, which is a hole that's created by bringing the last chain and the first chain together basically. And we are going to half double crochet 10 times. Now that we've half double crocheted 10 times, you're just going to pull this tight so that it closes in the middle. And we're going to slip stitch to not the chain 2, but we're going to slip stitch into the first half double crochet that we made. We're only going to be doing that in this round to ensure that the circle is very tightly closed. All the other rounds will be slip stitching into the chain 2. So then we're going to chain 2 again, and we're going to half double crochet increase into every single stitch. So it's going to end up being 20 stitches, and that's how I count it. It's 2 half double crochets inside every 10 we just did. Once you get to this last part, it's going to look like there's something else to crochet into, but we've already done 20. This is actually just the slip stitch that we ended the last row with, and how we're going to end the row again. So this time we're slip stitching into the chain 2. And so we skip that, even though it looks like a big space to skip, because that's just a slip stitch, so we don't want to crochet into that. Then we're going to chain 2. By the way, I am using a 5.25mm hook. For this pattern, it doesn't really matter what hook size you're using. Like I said, I'm using weight for yarn. And so you want to try to stay in like the 4.5 to 5.5 range. Now we are going to half double crochet into the first half double crochet from the previous row. It's a tight squeeze when you're doing the first one. And we are going to increase in every other stitch this time. So the first one you're doing 1 half double crochet, and then in the next stitch you're doing 2 half double crochets, then 1, and then 2 again. and then 1, and then 2 again, increasing in every second stitch. At the end of that row, we are going to chain 2 and do the same thing again, except now it's going to be an increase in every third stitch. So we once again go into that first kind of tight stitch with a half double crochet, another half double crochet in the next one, and then an increase on the third one. And this row is easier to see when it's going to be an increase because it's always going to be over top of the beginning of an increase in the previous row. So this is the next part where we're going to increase, and you can see that there's already an increase right there, and we increase into the first one there. So it's 1, 2, and then 3 is an increase right over the last increase. And we're going to keep going around and increasing in every third stitch until we get to the end. Then at the end, we're just going to slip stitch into the chain 2 once again. And this is the end. This is how big the coasters are going to be. So if you're at the point where you're making the orange coaster parts, then this is where you're going to stop. You're going to chain 1, you're going to cut off the yarn, you're going to weave in that tail, and it's going to be a coaster already. If you are still at the beginning where you're making the pie crust, then don't do that. We're going to continue working by chaining 2. And now we're going to be doing no more increases because we don't want the project to be going out flat anymore. We want it to start going up. So we're actually just going to do 3 rows of half double crochets into every stitch. No increasing, everything is normal. Just 3 rows of 1 half double crochet into every stitch. Here I am at the end of my 3rd row of no increasing. So just to see how it looks for everyone. You can add rows if you want to. With the 5 coasters, the 5th one does stick out like above the edge of the pie crust a little, so adding a row would make it fit a little bit more, or even just adding a row of single crochet, or if you wanted to add even more coasters, then adding rows would be fine. You obviously don't want to make it too tall because then it doesn't really look like a pie crust anymore. But adding 1 or 2 rows would be fine if you want to add more coasters. But also with the 5 coasters, this size is perfectly fine. Now I'm going to teach you how to do the scallop edging that creates the edge of the pie crust look. So we're going to chain 1. We're just going to do normal scallop edging, so if you already know how to do that, then this will be easy, but it is a very easy skill. So if you've never done it, don't worry about it. It's so much easier than it looks. We are going to single crochet into the first one. Then we were going to skip a stitch and do an increase of 5 half double crochets. Normally in scallop edging, you do double crochets, or I don't know if that's normal, but that's what I've always done for, like, a lot of times it's used for borders on blankets. And I did try to do double crochet when I was testing out this pattern, but it looked too big to be a pie crust edge. So half double crochet works a lot better. And then you skip 1, make sure you're seeing the stitch that is next to this increase, because the increase will start to kind of block it a little since we've put so many stitches in there and there's not enough room for it. So you skip 1 and then you do a single crochet again, skip 1 again, and do the same thing, 5 half double crochets. And that's also customizable. So you could do 4, you could do 3. What I did for this pattern, for the most part, I'm doing the same thing, skipping 1 and then doing the single, then skipping 1 and doing the increase. but I didn't want it to look too perfect since it's a pie crust edge and pie crust edges do not look perfect. So every once in a while I'm doing more than one single crochet. So skip one, do a single crochet, but then I'm doing, sorry I had to pull more yarn, I'm doing a couple more single crochets. I just did 3 in a row. Then I skip one and do the increase again. And we're just going to do that all the way around. Even though it sticks up while you're making it, once you're done, it's easily folded and flattened to be the pie crust shape. And now that I'm getting close to the end of my scallop edge, I just want to show that no matter how many number of stitches you have left coming towards the end, it doesn't matter if you end off on a single crochet or on an increase. Just do whatever you can before you get to the end. So I would be slip stitching into here. So I don't really want to do another increase. So I'm just going to do another single crochet to get to the end. And then just do the quick slip stitch, chain 1, and cut up the yarn. You don't need the long end for anything, so just make whatever end you want to make and weave it in. And I'm actually just going to turn the whole thing inside out. We can get rid of this end that or tail that we started with. And you can see that you can adjust and manipulate this to be laying flat. And it will look more like a pie when the filling is in. So now you're going to go back to the beginning of this video. Like I said, the bottom of the pie crust is the same as the coaster. So if you want a recap instead of going back, if you feel confident that you don't need to see the visual again, it's going to be 10 half double crochets, then a row of increasing in every single stitch, a row of increasing in every other stitch, and one final row of increasing in every third stitch to make the coaster. Chain 1, cut off the yarn, weave it in. That's as simple as it gets to make the coasters, and then you just pile them into the pie until the pie is full. Like I said, I made 5 coasters. 4 would be enough to fill this pie as well. But the 3D whipped cream on the top coaster is going to make it so it's actually hard to use as a coaster. I mean, there is big enough space on either side to put a drink down or like a spoon down if you're like using a spoon, you know. So that's why I wanted to make 5 so that there's 4 completely usable ones. And then the 5th one is the one that has the whipped cream on top. And speaking of the whipped cream, I will now show how to make the whipped cream. You're going to want a long tail, but you only need a long tail on one side. So it can either be in the beginning or at the end. It's up to you, because it's going to be used for sewing the whipped cream onto the one of the orange coasters. So I'm going to start off just having a short tail, and then I'll make a long tail at the end. The whipped cream, there's not much to it. You're going to chain about 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then you're just going to single crochet into every stitch, starting with 1 away from the hook, so it's going to end up being 11 single crochets. And while you do single crochets in a line, it naturally starts to curl anyway, and that's what we want for the whipped cream. I am only going to do 1 row of this and then wrap it around like a little whipped cream. It would look fine with 2 rows too. That would make it like a thicker whipped cream swirl, if you will. I just wanted a little dollop, especially like I said, for the usability of the coaster. So I just made a line like this, just single crochet in a row, chain 1, make a longer tail, and cut up the yarn. Then you are going to make the whipped cream into a swirly shape and then just sew it onto the orange coaster that you want it on. It does not need to be sewn very tightly or sewn like all the way around. I leave this loose. I feel like it looks more realistic that way. And then I just use the other end to tie them together, and then I will weave them in underneath. Once you have completed all 5 or however many coasters you want to make, you place them all in with the whipped cream on top, of course. And there we have the pumpkin pie. As always, if there are any questions while you're doing this, you can always leave me a comment, or I do put the link to my crochet Instagram account in the description, so you can also message me on that Instagram account if you want to ask me a question privately. If you need any kind of help at all, I would be happy to help with this pattern. Thank you for watching, and thank you to everyone who has been subscribing to my channel after watching my crochet tutorials. It has been helping me a lot, and I'm getting very close to reaching the goal to become a YouTube partner. I appreciate all the effort everyone makes, whether it's subscribing or leaving comments or binge watching my videos so I can get watch hours. Thank you to everyone, and I hope you all enjoy this pattern.